Well, hundreds plan on celebrating Juneteenth this week, and joining me, we have Angel Livas here, and she's celebrating having a Juneteenth event. Just talk to us a little bit about it.
Awesome. So our Juneteenth event is called I Am Black, which is a two-part experience that has a mini documentary as well as a live panel conversation with some very prominent African American men who are ready to just get this conversation going and not have it end with protests and just a conversation, but real political action.
In the state that we're in right now, how important is it having an event like this?
Oh my God, it's critical, right? So if you think about it, this year is the 155th anniversary of Juneteenth, which is the emancipation of slavery. And if you think back to really what policing was and why it was established back in the 1600s, it was to kind of control slaves. It was to catch runaway slaves. And they used essentially by any force necessary to get the slaves back to their masters or whatever. And so if you fast forward this 155 years from when slavery was emancipated, and you look at how policing is still kind of this by any means necessary controlling African Americans, treating African Americans in any way, shape, form, or fashion, it's kind of like, okay, how far have we really come? Like, why is this still occurring? So really getting that dialogue going. I think that the protests are great. I think that it is a great opportunity to take a stance, and it's beautiful to see other cultures participating in this, because that's where you know, okay, it's not just us, but we have unity.
You said dialogue and conversation. Just talk to me. We're seeing that happen a lot more through the midst of everything that's going on. How important is that? And then being able to contribute to that dialogue, how does that make you feel?
One of the things that I have noticed with a lot of my colleagues of different hues, different ethnic backgrounds, different cultural backgrounds, is that they're like, Angel, while I want to help, I don't completely understand what Black people go through. And so it's there that our first part of our event really will speak to. It's called the Enlightenment. It's to shed light on how Black people have been dealing with police. And this is like real from their lens. We should not have to feel like this level of anxiety when it comes to our interactions with the police. Like, we can no longer allow the police to handle policing the police. We as a people have to stand up and say, it's time for something different. This isn't working.
Right. Just break the event down to us. What can people who are going to attend virtually, what can they expect? What do you guys have planned?
All right, so the first part of the event is all around this mini documentary where we capture the story of several African American men who give their perspective of what they've dealt with law enforcement throughout their lifetime. The one thing that you'll see is even though they're varying ages, their story isn't that much different. After the mini documentary, that is where we will have the live interactive conversation with such prominent men as Michael Eric Dyson, Reverend Dr. Howard John Wesley of Alfred Street Baptist Church based in Alexandria, Virginia, the chairman of 100 Black Men, Mr. Tommy Dortch. We have a mental health expert as well as a best-selling author. And so what they will do is they will lead us in a dialogue around what next steps do we need to have to really embrace the unity that we're starting to see, but to really bridge the gap and create a true United States.
Got it. So we're seeing a lot of municipalities, a lot of cities talking about defunding the police. What do you think on that? What's your stance on that?
I think that we have to change our language. I like to speak positivity into situations, just like this project being called I Am Black, owning that. With defunding the police, I feel like it has a negative connotation to it. And I think really what we're saying is that we need to reallocate funds from just having all of this money go to the police, but reallocating it to resources to help in these inner cities, especially, right? And one of the things why I think it's very important that we do that is that I remember being told by a mental health specialist that there has been a cut and funding towards mental health in the DC area recently, right? And so what that does, it just creates even greater problems.
Right.
In my opinion, we are on the brink of a tremendous mental health crises. If you think about 2020, just the last 6 months of what we have endured as a country, we have endured COVID-19. We're dealing with the 40 million people who are unemployed now. We are dealing with a society that has just been watching these brutalities of Black men several times throughout just the course of this year alone, and women, right? And so when you start to think about the psyche and how all of these traumatic experiences are playing on individuals during this time, we shouldn't be worried about like putting in extra money to the police. We should just be making sure that society as a whole is sustainable and that our mental health capacity is good. So one of the things that I've questioned is, well, what happens to all of those bystanders who have witnessed these police shootings and killings of Black people, and people are standing there holding their phones and they're watching this? So now not only has society seen it, which is great because we're able to create change, but how is that impacting that person who was actually standing there and watching the last breaths come out of a human being? What does that do?
We don't hear a lot. We don't hear about the people who record or the witnesses to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What do you think about people becoming more aware of Juneteenth? People are being able to, they're given like a paid holiday basically, in a lot of companies. Like Nike just announced that. So I don't know, just like, what are your thoughts on that exactly? So we've never seen this.
Never seen it before, but I think it's very pivotal. I think that it speaks volumes. I feel like right now, you can no longer turn a blind eye and say you did not know. You can no longer turn a blind eye and say, I did not understand. Unlike previously, where these shootings would happen or the police brutality would take place, but life was still going. There was nowhere to go. There was nowhere to avoid the conversation. So now, after this, if you act like you don't understand, if you act like you have not been informed, or you haven't even done your own personal due diligence to gain a better understanding, then that's a personal problem that you were not willing to, move yourself past. We've been talking diversity and inclusion for so long. It's not even the diversity anymore, because companies have been adding more Black people to the conversation or to the room, but are they actually being included in the decision-making process? Are they actually being included in those key things that really move the needle for whatever the business ideas are or whatever your company may be doing? That's not always the case.
Talk to us a little bit on how can people get involved in the event, where can they sign up or anything like that, and the specific event details, I guess.
IamBlack.org. All the information is there. You'll learn a little bit about the mini documentary as well as the panel conversation and who are our featured panelists. And I think that it's really, really important for the panel conversation that you get involved. It's one thing to have something that you can just watch on television, but we intentionally did this on YouTube so people can share their thoughts and it's real time. So it may be a question that you pose that actually gets asked to the panelists. That is really important right now, because what I think is invaluable is to let the American people's voices be heard. For far too long, we have allowed other officials to be our sounding board, to be our voice. But then once they're in those positions, we don't always feel represented. Here is your opportunity to have your voice be heard, to pose questions, and to really have that dialogue going on in the chat during the live feed on June 19th. The program starts at 7 p.m. with the mini doc, which is all about the Enlightenment, followed by the live interactive panel conversation at 8. So again, it's all happening on IamBlack.org. You click the live stream and it will take you directly to the YouTube space where the conversation is going to be happening.
Thank you so much for joining me. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.